Speech to persuade. The topic is cancel culture. Written the speech. First take. Let's see if I'm able to do this. Right. 3, 2. To begin this speech, I would like to enlighten you with a small story. When I was 8 years old, my dad came into my room and he told me that my mom is waiting for me downstairs with a gift. Now, as an 8-year-old kid, learning about the fact that I've got a gift is pretty exciting news. I was happy, I was ecstatic, and I rushed downstairs to find my mom. And in that hurry and excitement and the adrenaline of getting a gift pumping through my veins, I ended up placing my hand in such a way that allowed my pinky finger, this one right here, to get stuck between door hinges. This is the first time I ever had a major injury. Before this, it was just cuts and bruises and scars, things that people can handle. But no, this right here was a hairline fracture. It was bleeding, my mom was worried, I was scared and crying, and you know what? I even missed a pretty important cricket match because of it. My team lost. Seems like they were pretty useless without me. It's been 13 years since this incident. I've learned, I've grown, and I've matured enough to realize where and where not to put my fingers so that I don't risk breaking them again. And look, they're intact. Even though I kind of fractured this one, but it wasn't related to door hinges. That's all I'm trying to say here. Now let me give you a hypothetical situation. One day my mom and dad walk into my room and they say to me, Viren, 13 years ago you made a small, stupid and silly mistake. You have obviously not learned from that mistake. You have not matured enough to realize what you did wrong. And I'm pretty sure that you're still going to make this mistake again and again and again. You are the same person you were when you were 8 years old. And because of this mistake that you made, we're not sending you to college. We're not even going to give you any money. And hey, while we're at it, why don't you pack your bags because you're out of the house? Doesn't that seem a bit odd? A little unfair? Well, this story was an example of what cancel culture is becoming. Merriam-Webster defines cancel culture as the practice or tendency of engaging in mass cancelling as a way of expressing disapproval and exerting social pressure. This definition itself shows us how negative this whole trend is. It is considered social pressure on people, and it is a big reason why people have reduced, if not stopped, expressing their views online. Well, today, in this speech, I will try to explain to you why cancel culture is toxic, extremely problematic, and what we can do to try and stop it. On the surface, cancel culture sounds like a fantastic idea. It is a way to hold people accountable for their actions, and guess what? That's exactly how it started off. Cancel culture, or call-out culture as it was called earlier, was started in 2014 as a part of the Me Too movement. The first recorded instance of cancel culture was in 2014 March, when activist Sway Park called out a blatantly racist tweet about Asians from the official Twitter account of the Colbert Report. She used the hashtag #CancelColbert, which generated widespread outrage against Stephen Colbert. So if the trend started in 2014 as a way to hold privileged people accountable for their actions, why is it so bad? The problem arises when these cancellers take it upon themselves to harm and personally attack people. One such instance happened on June 27th, when a Costco employee was filmed screaming at an elderly woman. People took to social media and began to cancelling this man. But like I said, these cancellers like to take it one step further. They found out personal information and who he was using the Costco website, forced employers to take action, and guess what? He was fired. The man lost his only source of income because of one video that went viral. Similarly, this happened to director James Gunn, who was fired from his job as director of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 by Disney. Gunn made a lot of offensive comments on Twitter in 2009 and 10, which surfaced again in 2018, leading to him losing his job. Now, I'm not standing here and telling you that what Gunn did was correct. He should not have made those offensive comments. What I'm trying to explain to you here is that back then, when Twitter had just started, it was supposed to be a competitor to Facebook. It was a place where people could follow each other and share nonsensical jokes about the world, about anything. So I challenge you, pick any celebrity's Twitter account, and if you scroll through their feed pre-2010, you will find offensive comments, jokes, and even personality damaging photos and videos. A similar thing happened to actor Kevin Hart. He got the same treatment because of a tweet he made in 2010 which resurfaced again. The tweet was homophobic in nature, and because of that he lost his job as host of the Oscars, which was his lifelong dream. So what do we get from this? What do we understand from what these people are trying to do? What I believe is that these people are trying to convey to the world that people are not capable of change. We do not have the internal capacity to make a decision to mature ourselves, to learn from our mistakes, and not only from our mistakes, learn from others' mistakes. That is what cancel culture is telling every single person in this world. That if someone's made a mistake back in 2009 and 2010, they're the same person. There is no difference. In addition to these cancellations, both celebrities received a lot of hate comments and death threats because of tweets they made back when neither the world nor were they, as we like to call it, woke. So what do people say about this matter? The first instance I would like to discuss is the Harper Magazine letter. This letter, named A Letter on Justice and Open Debate, was published on the 7th of July 2020, and it is signed by over 100 distinguished personalities, including Salman Rushdie and J.K. Rowling. The letter talks about how in today's day and age, it is near impossible to express your views freely without any criticism, which... It is near impossible to express your views freely. The signers of the letters are fearful of what the world is becoming, as they realize that the social norms are restricting people to properly use their right to free speech. The letter clearly states that they are not against the people who are fighting for justice. However, they are against the toxicity that is caused by cancel culture all around the world. The letter faced a lot of backlash. The letter received a lot of backlash by the cancellors, stating that the powerful and the privileged do not have the right, do not understand the problems faced by those who are underprivileged. They also state that the people who have signed the letter have no understanding of the topic, and the letter they have written and signed is unjust. This comment made by the cancellors just doesn't make any sense. I say this because of one of the writers, one of the people who have signed this letter. I spoke about this man before. His name is Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie is an Indian-British author. He wrote a fictional book called The Satanic Verses. The Satanic Verses turned out to be a very controversial book, and because of that, Salman Rushdie received a fatwa. A fatwa was declared on him, and for those of you who don't know what a fatwa is, it is basically a legal ruling in accordance to Islamic law, which basically says that if you enter our country, we have the right to kill you. It's a death sentence. And like I said before, that's what cancel culture, the cancellers are doing. They're cancelling people, they're spreading hate comments, and even death threats. Salman Rushdie has a lot of experience in this. He knows exactly what it feels like to be cancelled, as he's been cancelled by countries. He's been given death sentences by countries. Why? Because he wrote a book. So if a man like Salman Rushdie is signing this letter, doesn't it give you a small idea of how bad cancel culture is becoming? No, I have to change that. I'm changing that. Okay. So if a man like Rushdie has signed the letter, how is the statement made by the cancellors true? Speaking of controversial statements, here's one for you. The cancel culture movement is mainly spearheaded by the liberal left of the United States of America. This sounds like an extremely untrue and unjust statement. However, it is a fact. These facts are provided by Pew Research Center in their published study of May 2021. The study tries to understand what American population thinks about cancel culture. The center surveyed over 10,000 Americans. Out of those, 44% had heard a great deal about cancel culture. To explain the statement I made, I will use this percentage as my sample data. Out of these 44%, 49% of them believe that cancel culture is a tool to hold people accountable and create a safe environment for everyone. They believe that actions are required to hold people accountable. 59% of the people who said this were liberal Democrats. Now, why is this belief flawed? It is because people are being targeted for the wrong reasons. Like I said before, Kevin Hart was fired from his job as the host of the Oscars. Another celebrity caught in this criticism was Emma Watson, who also happens to be the love of my life. Watson was criticized for her understanding of feminism and was cancelled because of that. Events like this make us wonder if this trend of cancelling people has swayed away from being a movement to hold people accountable to a movement that allows us to target people just because we do not have the same beliefs as them. We as people need to learn to converse and, more importantly, listen. A better solution to the Emma Watson case would be to hear her out, understand her view on feminism, and at the same time converse with her about why you do not believe in the same beliefs as hers. Maybe she understands what you're saying. And you know what? Maybe you understand what she's trying to say. This way, we are encouraging people to talk and express their views without the fear of a mob of people attacking them for just stating their beliefs. As I said before, the trend started as something where people could actually call out personalities who have done extremely terrible things. One such event was the Bill Cosby case. Cosby was accused by 60 plus women for sexual harassment in 2018. The people took to social media and began the movement #CancelCosby. This instance of cancel culture shows that we need to unite against people who have actually done heinous acts in their past, rather than finding random tweets or posts from 12, 13 years ago. Cosby was later released from prison, showing us that the justice people are trying to gain from cancel culture is being gained from the wrong sources. Proof of this is the disappointment of Tarana Burke, who founded the #MeToo movement. When she saw that her movement was being used as a way to cancel men, she was disappointed and stated that to create change, we have to get off the internet and start working towards making the change. Cancelling men will never bring an end to sexual harassment, and it will only cause others to get enraged, which is not the point of this movement. To sum it all up, I believe cancel culture has now become a movement that is hypocritical. It is an exclusionary tactic to ostracize people socially, which defeats the whole purpose of this movement. We need to understand what the problem is, why it should be solved, and then actually act upon it. The movement has reached a point where it isn't just about social norms. It is about personal vendetta and people cancelling others for not believing in the same things they believe in. The solution to this is to listen, converse, and then act, rather than sitting behind a screen and cancelling others. I would like to leave you with a quote from Barack Obama, who said, "If all you're doing is casting stones, you're probably not going to get that far." Thank you. Ooh, some changes need to be made, but I like it.